Hey guys, welcome to my strategy guide for the Ambassador. I'm going to be going over my general rotation, but not really focusing on his rotation as much necessarily. This is not meant as a beginner's guide, so this is more advanced. Um, some things of notes, I'm using magic with Cinderbane gloves, also using weapon poison. I actually drank it right when this clip started, but yeah, it's here. So I'm using a Steel Titan also, which is pretty important if you want to get the fastest kills because you kind of need a Steel Titan to get enough DPS so that you can skip the second spin attack. I'm sure you could skip it without it, but it makes it a lot easier. I recommend bringing at least one summoning flask. I bring four personally, but because I like to spam them basically the whole kill. But yeah, at least one summoning flask I would recommend just for the beginning bit. You would spam it for the whole beginning so you can make sure that you skip the second spin attack. Otherwise, you're gonna be in for a long kill. But anyways, so first thing you do is you pot up. Gonna pre-devotion before you go in, and then surge in. Vaughn into Sunshine, standard Sunshine rotation. His first attack's always a mage, so make sure you're praying mage when you go in. And then his next mage attacks will be every 5 auto attacks. This is important, especially at the beginning. Since the beginning of the fight is mostly timed, you can generally know when his next mage attack is coming, because he has a set rotation. There's a couple of key mage attacks that I either res or just know that are coming, so I just before they come out, I'll just pray mage, and I'll note them. But yeah, just gonna mention that. I guess the best thing would be experience. So eventually, you'll be experienced enough to know when the mage attacks are coming at the beginning of the fight. But yeah, standard mage rotation, wild magic and nose fix. And then his first spec comes out, which is his smoke. The smoke, I'm going to place it in the northeast corner of my sunshine. I position myself here so that when the smoke actually comes, I can just move. So the smoke comes and move, get out the way. And I also want to note one more thing about this. I was talking about his mage attacks. He always mage attacks after this first smoke, when he places it on you. So once you get this bar on you, you know you have to pray mage because it always comes there. So you pray mage, and then you move. And I missed soul split. I missed prayer flick here, but yeah. And then a black hole spawns. Once the black hole spawns, I try and get my second asphyxiate in. And then 2 attacks after the black hole spawns, he throws another magic attack. So you see the black hole, and you asphyxiate, and then you see him throw a range hit. His next attack's going to be a mage hit. So I try and asphyxiate, and then on tick res the magic hit. So I always res that magic hit every time. It's very nice to get that HP gain, so you don't have to waste your precious food. I guess if you're a mainscaper, you could probably just eat through it, but yeah, just might as well res it. I feel like it's not that much of a time loss. And then I instantly lose all my HP by reprisaling. So at this point, after you res, you can either stun the black hole or you can reprisal. I've been reprisaling the past couple of days because it speeds up my kills, and I want to try and get like personal bests and whatnot. But yeah, it's up to you. If you think you're gonna need a lot of food, then just stun it and get it done with. But I reprisal it at this point, so. And you just keep thresholding, keep spamming summoning pots. There's another magic attack that comes out once the second smoke is placed. As soon as the second smoke places, you can switch to mage spray and it'll block it. And then we get to the first spin phase. So for the spin phase, I'm meta, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about target cycling. Target cycling is an option in RuneScape that you can set a keybind to target something that is near you. I am going to talk about this because I actually use it here, and I don't think many people know about it or use it at all. If you see, I target this fragment while it's still like coming out of him. So like you see how fast they're moving. It's really hard to click, right? But you can still target it by using target cycling. You can set it in your settings under targeting, and then you can set a keybind for it. And once you set a keybind for it, it'll just target whatever is near you in a certain way that you can set up. But yeah, so I use that to target this fragment when it's coming out. And then I meta, and my two abilities I use on this fragment first before I move on is my two bleeds. So Combust and Corruption Shot. Or Corruption Blast. I think it's Blast. But yeah, obviously Soul Split at this point. You want to get your HP back. And then you go on to the next one. Generally try to not Wild Magic this fragment, the southeast one, because you want to save it for the next one. But sometimes that can be a pain. I usually try and Wild Magic this one. I actually don't get my Wild Magic in my meta there, I think, so kind of bad, but yeah. Anyway, try and make use of, you know, your Corruption Blast, your Asphyxiate. Make sure if you deep impact, you also rack afterwards because they can be stunned. But yeah, just kill them with your thresholds. Once they're all dead, you go into the middle. Well, I guess you don't necessarily need to, but you want to vuln into detonate. And then you release your detonate once you see a message on your screen that the fragments were absorbed. And then you'll deal a bunch of damage to him with your Deto. And then you're going to start counting to 3. The reason you count to 3, I guess it doesn't matter if you're not going to stand in melee distance. But I'll talk a little bit more about melee distance after I make this point. But after 3 attacks, he's going to use his magic or mage attack, depending on if you're far away from him or close to him. So 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to pray melee here. I'm going to block the melee hit. I'll talk a little bit about the melee distance, why I do it. The melee generally hits less than the magic hit. The magic hit can hit like up to 5k, and the melee hit can hit, I don't know, probably 2.5k. I feel like it's roughly half. But yeah, if you don't want to necessarily prayer flick, then you should stand MD. And especially once the Crassians come out, I don't know if it's beneficial to stand out. I'd rather just stand in melee distance and not prayer flick at all than have to pray mage for a little bit. Unless you're really good with your prayer flicking, can do it on tick or whatever, but you could still get unlucky with all the Crassians. So that's why I stand melee distance. Just noting that. And then, yeah, another standard stun rotation here. He puts a smoke on me. There's a third smoke. The third smoke is very important because once it places, he's going to do 1 attack, and then he's going to mage you. Or melee you if you're melee distance. But I usually go out to make sure he mages me so I can get a bigger res, and then I res it. I always res this magic attack, just like I always res the other one earlier in the fight. So yeah, just make sure you res that one. I think it's pretty nice time to res anyway. But and then he's gonna spawn the black hole, and you can stun that one. I guess technically you could reprisal tank that, but I don't really bother. I might actually start doing that. We'll see. And then at this point, you're going to want to use your Excalibur. Excalibur is really nice on the Crassian part because you're just getting... It's basically a tank test. A tank and a DPS test because you just want to try and DPS him down as quick as possible. But, yeah, so at this point, your goal is to get him to 400k HP from 550k. So, yeah, just place the smoke out here so that I can go melee distance and not have to worry about soul split or prayer flicking. And then I'm just gonna sunshine as soon as it's off cooldown, basically. And oh no, I threw another threshold. Or I use asphyxiate. I don't know. Basically, it doesn't really matter. I guess I sunned a little late in this clip, but the sun timing isn't. I found it's not that important. I used to wait until he hit 400k HP before I sunshine, but I don't do that anymore because I find it didn't really help me. But my thinking was that you want to get him, you want to burst him once he hits 400k HP because that's when the real burn phase starts. Like when you need to actually deal damage more than he's healing or whatever. But I guess it doesn't technically matter if you're blocking all the heals anyway on the last phase. But yeah. Anyway, so Siryu comes out, saves the day, kills all the Crassians. I guess one more thing I'll note is if you're like doing not so well on food at this point, you can always use devotion and res one of the mage hits. If you're praying range with devotion, everything will hit a 1, and then you could just res the mage hit because the ones won't proc your res. So pretty useful if you're running low on food. Then he kills all the Crassians, and the attack before he goes into this animation, if it's a melee hit, then you cannot soul split at this point because he'll instantly go back to attacking you. But if it's a range hit, like in this clip, he will do this animation and it gives you a lot of time to soul split. So you can just soul split for like 5 to 10 seconds and then get a ton of HP back. You can also flank him at this point. I'm pretty sure I flank him here. But yeah. So at this point, you just kind of DPS him until the hands start throwing the smoke out. Instantly run to the hand that's throwing smoke out. Obviously, use thresholds. I should probably Vuln here. There's a Vuln. Yeah, just make sure your Vuln's up, and then here is where you have a choice. Generally, recently I've been opting for a reflect into a reprisal. You could also do a reflect into debilitate if you're kind of low on food. If you're really low on food, though, I would recommend a devotion first, because then if you don't DPS fast enough on the third spec, you can devotion again, and then you should be able to kill him after that. But yeah, it's kind of situational. Right now I'm leaning towards the reflect on the first one plus the reprisal because it does a ton of damage. So if you have a lot of food left, then you can just do that. Or if you're really poor on food, you can res the first hit and then do some defensive afterwards. I used to do that on release when I was having issues with my food. So yeah, if you need to, you can res the first hit and it'll res for 9k. But you do have to make sure that these smokes are not hitting you at the same time. But yeah, I reprisal this one with a reflect, so it does a ton of damage to him. And then I sunshine as soon as it comes off cool. Not as soon as it comes off cooldown. As soon as I'm able to. Actually, it is off cooldown. But this is a non-planet feat sunshine because I know I'm going to be able to do enough damage. But yeah, it's basically this phase is very interesting, and it takes a lot of practice to get good at. But it feels really good when you actually get it down. This second spec I use devotion, but like I said, it kind of depends on where your food is. If you want to use the, okay, if you want to use the reflect into reprisal, it's more food usage, but it does more damage. That's why I started using it on the first one, just in case I can kill him, like, I don't know, before the second spec somehow, in some way. Probably won't happen, but you know. But yeah, I guess that is it. So thank you for watching. Hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments or catch me on my live stream on Twitch. Thank you guys.